Welcome to Passion for Sound, the channel dedicated to thorough and honest reviews of headphones, earphones, DACs, headphone amps, other components and accessories. Basically everything audio related except power amps and passive speakers. My name's Lachlan and my goal is to explore and discuss all kinds of audio topics, even the controversial ones, to help us all find more enjoyment from music. Thanks for watching and enjoy the video. Hey folks, welcome to another Passion for Sound audio review. Today's review is a bit different to the usual because I'm talking about a microphone rather than DACs, amps, headphones and the like. The reason for that is that Sennheiser reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to test out and review their microphone, and I thought given that I'm always recording content and also talking to people like yourselves that may be interested in recording your own content sometimes, I thought this might be of interest to some viewers. The product I've got here is the MKE200 microphone from Sennheiser. It's a very compact shotgun mic that's designed to use with smartphones and or DSLR or mirrorless cameras to produce better quality audio than the integrated microphones in those devices. I've been running it through its paces for a while now. Some of you will have seen in previous videos where I've actually done some of the recording with the shotgun mic, and that was all part of me getting a sense of how it sounded, how it responded to EQ and the like, and to get a sense of what it was like to use in general. The MKE200 retails for just $100 US or 200 Australian dollars in the Australian market, and that makes it a pretty affordable mic if it does provide improvements in sound. So without further ado, let's take a look at what you get when you buy the MKE200, and then we'll talk about its sound quality. When you buy the MKE200, you get a handful of things in the box. You get the mic itself, of course, and we'll talk more about that in a second. You also get a couple of different cables. So you get one cable that's designed for smartphone. It's got a 4-pole 3.5mm jack on it, which is a little bit interesting given that most smartphones are moving away from using headphone jacks now, so it is going to make it a bit tricky unless you've got an appropriate dongle. But then what you've got is a standard 3-pole 3.5mm plug, which will work with DSLRs, mirrorless cameras. You could use it with various portable recording devices, such as the Zoom H1N, for instance. So this is probably the cable that most people are going to use with the demise of headphone jacks on smart devices. I do think it's good that Sennheiser provide both though, because there will be some people that still have headphone jacks, or as I mentioned before, that have dongles that allow the use of external microphones. In addition to the cables, you get a little pouch for carrying the microphone around in your bag, for instance, if you're traveling and recording out and about, which you most likely will with this microphone, as you'll see soon. And then finally, you get a dead cat. If you're not familiar with that term, this is a windbreaker device. It's just some sort of synthetic internal material with some elastic to go over the microphone and this fuzz on top, this sort of synthetic fur that's going to help to prevent any external noise, particularly wind noise, from getting to the mic. So the accessory set is about what you'd expect for a microphone like this. You obviously need cables to connect it. I do like that they provide the dead cat. I've bought other devices in the past, like my Zoom H1N that I mentioned before, that didn't come with a dead cat, and therefore I would have to go out and buy one should I need to use it in environments where a dead cat's necessary. Now, I'm not sure if there's a technical term for dead cats. I've always known them as dead cats. If there is, I'd love you to let me know down in the comments below, because it's not the nicest of terms, particularly for the cat lovers out there, so I apologise for anyone, and maybe from here on, I'm going to call it a windbreaker. Having looked at all the accessories though, let's take a look at the microphone itself. So the microphone itself is designed so that it sits on the camera, pointing forward with this at the front, and that means that the cable connection is also on the front of the microphone. What that means is that when you plug in the cable, and it's got a nice securing screw connector, which I really like so it doesn't accidentally come undone, the cable is then going to wrap around and plug into the side of your DSLR, mirrorless device, or it might even pull down underneath into your headphone socket on your smartphone, depending on where it is. Now, my first thought was that this was a silly place to put the plug, but in using it, I realized it's actually genius. The reason being is that most of the time you're going to have the device facing you. So let's say you're using a smartphone touchscreen, or maybe it's the back of your camera here. You don't want the cable draping over that screen. By having the cable at the front, it's actually going to loop around the front of your device, or the back of your device, depending on what you're using and how you look at it. But the point being, it's going to be away from the various controls that you're likely to be using here. So it's a really good design in that sense. It looks a bit weird, it looks a bit strange at first, but it makes total sense. Probably the best thing about the MK200 is that once you've connected that cable, you're done. There's nothing else you need to do. There's no power requirements for this mic. It's all self-contained. You just plug it in and away you go. And so with that in mind, let's start talking about the results. Now I've done all of my testing for the MK200 using my Sony a7R III, which I film everything on this channel with. I only really have the one camera these days that I use, and so everything was tested with that. I don't see any reason you'd get different results with other devices, so this should still be pretty indicative regardless of the device you're using. Obviously the difference between the internal mic and the MK200 may vary depending on your device, but the output from the MK200 should be pretty consistent. I think the best way to get things started here though is to show you my test footage using the MK200 on the Sony a7R III in a number of different situations. If you saw my previous review where I used the MK200 in the recording, you'll know that it doesn't perform particularly well in a small, untreated room where there can be lots of reflections. And so for all of my testing that you're about to see, I did the testing in larger rooms and also walking through to outside. So I'll play that to you now, with apologies that the video settings were all set up for my studio use. I hadn't changed the settings, so it does blow out pretty badly when I've gone outside and into the brighter light areas. So apologies for the video footage, but at least the sound quality is going to give you a good indication. This is a test of the Sennheiser MKE200 shotgun mic. It's in a moderate sized dining room with a little bit of background noise, and the dead cat is off. Now the dead cat is on, same room, same situation, a little bit of background noise in a dining room. This is a video using the stock A7R microphone in my Sony a7R, obviously, just to test compared to the MKE200. So this is in the living room now. Once again, stock camera microphone in the a7R Mark III from Sony. This room's pretty similar, but obviously different finishings, different furnishings to absorb sound or not absorb sound. We're going to go through the kitchen, off through the kitchen, still testing the sound in all different environments, into a little corridor near the laundry where we get some extra reflections off the walls because it's quite a small space. So going out through a kitchen, past a laundry with a bit of background noise as we go, quite different space now to pick up some reflections. And now we're outside, so we're under a pergola that might create some reflected noise. I'm going to move outside. Now we're completely outside, there's a plane overhead. This should give us a sense of what the microphone can do in a whole lot of different situations. Okay, so we're out under the pergola, moving into the outdoors in general. No plane overhead this time, but we're in the outside area now to see how it sounds outdoors. Having now seen and more importantly heard the test footage using the MK200 and the internal a7R III microphone, what you'll probably realise is what I have, which is that the MKE200 is doing a really good job for a budget microphone. It's not a perfect sound. For me, it could do with just a little bit more body to the sound, but that's also something that you can EQ back into it. What I really noticed from doing the testing though was that it did a much better job at rejecting the background noise, the reflections from the room, the general room sound. It did a much better job of that than the internal mic on the a7R III. What you won't know from listening to those test clips, because I normalized the volumes, was that the MK200 also has a higher gain level. So I didn't need to boost the signal as much, and that in theory should also mean there's a lower noise floor using the MK200 because it's creating more of a gap between the signal level and the noise level. Once I boosted the level from the internal camera microphone, I did start to notice that I was able to hear more background noise and potentially system noise depending on how much you have to boost it. The final thing I noticed was that when I got outside with the camera, both with and without the MK200, the MKE200 using the windbreaker device did a much better job at rejecting wind noise. And on the day that I did the filming, there was very little wind. So it goes to show you just how sensitive the internal device microphones can be, and it was nice to see that the MKE200 did a much better job at rejecting that noise. So I'm going to keep this review pretty short. Hopefully what you've heard in terms of the test footage and also just what you've seen in terms of what you get and the price tag tells you everything you need to know. From my point of view, this is a fantastic device if you're filming in spaces that are big enough, or obviously outdoors, so as to avoid reflections from untreated walls. When I've used this in my office setup here in the sort of office/studio, which is a normal sized bedroom, it's like a 3 meter by 4 or 5 meter space, it probably isn't a great choice because it does pick up a lot of the noise from reflections off the walls. Once you get into a larger dining room, living room type space, so say sort of 4 meters by 6 meters type space, that's where it really started to come into its own, even without treatments on the walls. Take that a step further and go outdoors, and it's absolutely brilliant. So if you're looking to capture sound with a smart device or a camera of some sort, and you need to up your game from the internal microphone, I do think the Sennheiser MK200 is a nice place to start. I'll admit that I don't have a lot of experience with all different devices, but given the price tag, it's going to be very hard to go wrong with the MK200. If it's something that's of interest to you, as always, I'll pop some links down below so you can go and check it out for yourself and buy one if it suits you. For now though, I hope you found this review useful. If you have, please let me know with a like or a subscribe down below, or both ideally, and I'll look forward to seeing you here next time on Passion for Sound.